We have a lot to discuss. With us in studio, our next guest, spokesperson for Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, Tal Heinrich. Tal, thank you so much for joining us in studio. We just found out yesterday that the United States is now facing criticism from global leaders. They're facing it from people here right in the United States after it vetoed, the U.S. vetoed a UN Security Council resolution calling for an immediate ceasefire. Explain to us why a ceasefire is not possible, and how can it be that people are criticizing the United States for this, or criticizing Israel for its right to defend itself?
Well, we are very grateful for the United States for doing the right thing. And it's not only because you are Israel's best friends, and you are. It's because the good people of this country, good people of conscience, they know how to tell right from wrong and good from evil. And they know, you know, that Israel is fighting pure evil called Hamas. They're death squads. They raped, they butchered, they mutilated, they burned entire families on October 7th. Now, what does it mean, a ceasefire? That would mean giving impunity to these terrorists, giving them immunity because of their double war crime, the fact that they're embedding themselves in and underneath civilian structures and inside urban areas. We cannot let terrorists get away with what they did. You know, Lydia, if 40,000 Americans would have been murdered on the same day by bloodthirsty terrorists, I would not want to live in a world that tied America's hands.
Right.
I would have been terrified.
I can't even imagine after September 11th, because you're talking about it comparatively the size of Israel versus the United States. If the world was against us from defending ourselves against Osama bin Laden and the terrorists.
So it is very important that Israel would send an unequivocal message to these terrorists. And it's not only about us. It also pertains to, you know, to the entire Western world and the civilized world, honestly. If we don't answer to this terrorism in our part of the world, then it will eventually make its way here. And everyone of good conscience understands it. If terrorists are watching, terrorists are taking notes right now. If the civilized world doesn't send a very strong message against terrorism, if they call on restraint to contain Israel, they call for a so-called ceasefire that will leave our hostages in Gaza and give impunity to these terrorists, what does it mean? It means that there's a window of opportunity for terrorists around the world to cause more bloodshed and more trouble. If the civilized world blames itself and contains itself for their bloodthirsty actions, that's insanity.
What do you say to people that say that the people in Gaza that are being killed, they're innocent civilians? What do you say to that? Because, I mean, it is heartbreaking. We don't want innocent people to die. I mean, I can't look at those images myself, but...
Nobody but Hamas wants them to die. They openly say that they want to sacrifice the Palestinian population of Gaza for their sick goal of obliterating the Jewish state as it stands in their charter. And they said it in interviews. They also said that they would commit the October 7th massacre for a second, a third, a fourth time. Now, every civilian casualty is a major tragedy. We don't want to see any civilian casualty. And we, the IDF, the Israeli Defense Forces, we're doing our maximum efforts to minimize the civilian casualties, minimize the civilian suffering, while Hamas, they're doing everything possible to maximize them. They need it for their propaganda.
Last question to you. I know we have less than a minute left. Iran, right? We're seeing U.S. entities being attacked left and right. I think it was like 75 attacks in the last 2 months. Iran-backed militias, they're the ones responsible. How important is it to also focus on Iran?
It is very important because, as we know, these are all Iran's proxies. Hamas is 93% funded by Iran. Palestinian Islamic Jihad, the second largest terrorist group in Gaza, just the same. We see the Houthis in Yemen. We see the militias, the Iranian-backed militias in Iraq. It all leads to the head of the snake, so to say. And this is why I say that it's very important that we send an unequivocal message against terrorism, because they're all watching and taking notes right now. So we have to hit them hard. In Hebrew, we have a saying that goes, whoever shows mercy to the cruel will eventually be cruel to the merciful.
I like that saying. And exactly, because it's kind of giving an open invitation to other terrorist groups if they see you're acting weak and you don't defend itself.
100%.
Tal, thank you so much for everything that you do. As always, a pleasure to have you on.